During the Great Depression, Clyde Barrow, played by Warren Beatty, and Bonnie Parker, played by Faye Dunaway, meet when Clyde tries to steal Bonnie's mother's car. Bonnie, who is bored by her job as a waitress, is intrigued by Clyde and decides to take up with him and become his partner in crime. They pull off some holdups, but their amateur efforts, while exciting, are not very lucrative. Bonnie and Clyde turn from small-time heists to bank robbing. The duo's crime spree shifts into high gear once they hook up with a dim-witted gas station attendant, C.W. Moss, played by Michael J. Pollard. Their exploits also become more violent. After C.W. botches parking during a bank robbery and delays their escape, Clyde shoots the bank manager in the face when he jumps onto the slow-moving car's running board. Clyde's older brother Buck, played by Gene Hackman, and his wife, Blanche, played by Estelle Parsons, a preacher's daughter, also join them. The two women dislike each other at first sight, and their antipathy escalates. Blanche has nothing but disdain for Bonnie, Clyde, and C.W., while Bonnie sees Blanche's flightiness as a constant danger to the gang's survival. In Joplin, Missouri, local police show up at the gang's rented house after being alerted by a grocery delivery boy. Two policemen are killed in a shootout. The gang is pursued by law enforcement, including Texas Ranger Frank Hamer, played by Denver Pyle, whom they capture and humiliate before setting him free. The five outlaws then pull a heist, during which a police chase disables their vehicle. Eugene Grizzard, played by Gene Wilder, and his girlfriend are on the terrace when the gang steals Eugene's car. The gang captures them, but they quickly abandon them when they learn Eugene is an undertaker. Bonnie wants to visit her family in Texas and give them part of the heist funds, to which Clyde reluctantly acquiesces despite the risk. The gang is caught off guard by an ambush by law enforcement overnight, resulting in many casualties. Buck is mortally wounded by a shot to his head, and Blanche is injured in one eye, losing sight in it. Bonnie, Clyde, and C.W. barely escape alive, while Blanche falls into police custody. Hamer then tricks her into revealing C.W.'s name. Previously, the police had not identified him. C.W. had been an unidentified suspect. C.W. takes the wounded Bonnie and Clyde to hide out at the house of his father, Ivan, played by Dub Taylor, who thinks the couple have corrupted his son, as evidenced by an ornate tattoo Bonnie convinced C.W. to get. The elder Moss makes a deal with Hamer. In exchange for leniency for C.W., he sets a trap for the outlaws. When Bonnie and Clyde stop on the side of the road to help Mr. Moss fix a flat tire as a nearby flock of birds flies away, the posse in the bushes gun the couple down. Hamer and his men come out of hiding and gather around the couple's bodies. About the film, Bonnie and Clyde, 1967, was directed by Arthur Penn and produced by Warren Beatty. The screenplay was written by David Newman and Robert Benton, with input from Robert Towne. Story was inspired by the real-life exploits of Bonnie and Clyde in earlier films such as Gun Crazy, 1950. The cast included Warren Beatty as Clyde Barrow, Faye Dunaway as Bonnie Parker, Gene Hackman, Estelle Parsons, Michael J. Pollard, and Denver Pyle. The film was shot on location in Texas, utilizing naturalistic cinematography and costumes to evoke the 1930s. Its music featured an iconic banjo-heavy score by Charles Strauss, rooted in Americana, notably using Foggy Mountain Breakdown by Flatt and Scruggs. The film released on August 13, 1967, it cost approximately $2.5 million to produce and grossed over $70 million at the box office, becoming a major commercial success. Critically divisive at first, the film was later hailed as revolutionary for its blend of violence, humor, and style, marking a turning point in American cinema. Its legacy includes influencing modern crime dramas and the New Hollywood movement. Interesting facts about Bonnie and Clyde, 1967 movie. 1. Movie revolutionized Hollywood by blending graphic violence with humor and romance. 2. The film sparked controversy for its portrayal of sex and violence. 3. Warner Bros. Did not believe the film would be a success, so they offered first-time producer Warren Beatty 40% of the gross instead of a minimal fee. For Beatty, the investment was profitable. The film made more than $70 million. 4. Film debut of Gene Wilder. 5. Gene Hackman was a relatively unknown actor at the time, but he became a star after his role in this film. 6. The screenplay was influenced by French New Wave cinema. 7. The real Bonnie Parker's poetry inspired elements of the script. 8. Estelle Parsons won an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress. 9. Movie became one of the first films to be labeled New Hollywood. 10. The costumes redefined 1930s fashion for modern audiences.
Clyde Barrow, the most ruthless killer the Southwest has ever known, was granted a parole from the Texas State Penitentiary by Governor Ross Sterling on February 2, 1932. He had been placed there after a series of comparatively minor crimes, including chicken stealing and petty thievery in his early boyhood, and culminating in burglary and automobile stealing. After his release, he began seriously his short career of violent crime, stealing automobiles, robbing banks, killing without mercy. Like a snowball rolling downhill, Barrow's crime record began to grow. After he walked out of the penitentiary on parole, one of the first things he did was to team up with Raymond Hamilton, another West Dallas bad boy. Together they went to Hillsborough, Texas, and about midnight on April 30th, 1932, they knocked on the door of a small store owned by J.N. Boucher.
What do you want? Oh, I guess you got dark tonight. Come on in.
Clyde Barrow murdered J.N. Boucher, a defenseless man, shot him in the back, and then continued to pour hot lead into his body as it lay on the floor. This was Clyde's first murder, and after this first taste of blood, 12 men went down to their death from Clyde Barrow's guns. W.D. Jones, who was held captive by Barrow for many months and who participated with him in robbery and murder, is now a prisoner in the Dallas County Jail. From W.D. Jones, we get first-hand information on Clyde Barrow, the killer.
I have been indicted along with Clyde and Bonnie for the murder of Malcolm Davis, Fort Worth Deputy Sheriff. I was forced along under threats of death with Clyde Barrow through many of his gun battles and saw him kill 5 men. Clyde Barrow never seemed to care for killing anyone. All he thought of was himself. That's the reason I tried to escape. Just soon kill me as anyone.
After Clyde had become a full-fledged killer and gone in for big-time crime, he met Bonnie Parker, waitress and wife of a convict. What attracted this strange pair to each other will never be known. After a series of murders and bank jobs, Bonnie and Clyde were boldly keeping a rendezvous with some of their henchmen near Grapevine, Texas. While they waited, they drank whiskey, made love to each other, and practiced their marksmanship by shooting at birds. Presently, 2 state highway patrol officers sighted the pair. They decide to investigate. They approach Bonnie and Clyde totally unaware of their identity. This atrocious murder sealed the doom of Bonnie and Clyde, for every peace officer in the entire Southwest became so enraged over this killing, they pledged themselves to sleepless days and nights in their search for this murdering pair. This untiring search finally brought the officers who were detailed to concentrate all of their efforts day and night to the apprehension of Bonnie and Clyde to a spot on a gravel road in the state of Louisiana. For 3 days and nights, these officers lay in wait on this road, but Bonnie and Clyde were wary. There is a sort of a tradition among peace officers of Texas that Barrow was possessed of some sixth sense, like a wild beast, which foretold of danger. But on this morning, this sixth sense did not serve to warn him of their presence.
That looks like the car, fellas. That's him for sure, I'll guarantee you. Get ready now. That's him, fellas. He's reaching for it. Let him have it. Look out!
Death is at the steering wheel. The inevitable end. Retribution. Here is Clyde Barrow and Bonnie Parker, who died as they lived, by the gun. Bonnie is seen leaning against Clyde. Clyde was a master gunman. Seldom did anyone ever live when Clyde got the first shot. Clyde Barrow's mania, his guns, spiked at last by the law. 2 sawed-off shotguns, 2 machine rifles, 10 automatic pistols, and 1,500 rounds of Barrow and Parker death car. Every one of these holes was made by the steel-jacketed bullets from the high-powered rifles in the hands of the officers. Many of these bullets passed entirely through the door on Clyde's side, through Clyde's body, struck Bonnie, passed through her body, then out through the door on her side of the car. The officers were on the left side of the road, nearest the driver. This explains the fact that Bonnie's body had more bullet holes than Clyde's. Any one of these bullets would have been fatal to both. But after having killed 14 people, most of whom were officers of the law, and having come safely through so many gun battles, it did not seem advisable to fire just one bullet. Some of the personal effects of Clyde and Bonnie. Vanity, thy name is woman. Bonnie's case contains many of the feminine aids to beauty. Really a pretty girl, Bonnie was found at the time of her death to have had a new permanent wave. Her fingernails were clean and prettily manicured, as were Clyde's, which was probably due to Bonnie's influence. This would indicate that aside from her association with Clyde during their murderous moments, she was a perfectly normal girl in many respects. Clyde's guns were his vanity. At night he would clean, oil, and polish them, and for each one he had a pet name. Barrow was a tourist who changed his home state at will. These license plates, found under the rear seat of the car, made him in turn a tourist from Indiana, Illinois, Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, and Louisiana. This is a big day in the life of this sleepy little town of Arcadia, Louisiana. The crowd in front of the small furniture and undertaking company, where Clyde and Bonnie's bodies lay, milled and grew to great proportions with each succeeding hour.